Just a thing that just occurred to me. It was a blessing, so I wanted to share it with you. I went and I grabbed my phone and put it into airplane mode, so I didn't get any calls while I was up here speaking with you today. And as I did, I realized that everyone that would have called me is here. And I feel very blessed because of that. So, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you to Reverend Thompson and Louise for inviting me to speak with you today about religious science and about a topic that's near and dear to me. Crime and punishment. It's one of the most primary ideas in our society. It gives us a sense of order and peace. And it's how we're kept to feel relatively safe in this physical world. It's one of the first things that we're taught when being raised. You do wrong and you're punished. It's standard stuff. And punishment as we go through life can mean many different things, from a simple timeout when you're a child to much harsher punishments when you become an adult. And the forms of punishment are just vast. And the schemes that we have for applying the perfect amount of punishment to the perfect offense are also vast and complicated. But our very sense of judgment, our very sense of justice is predicated on this punishment model. And essentially it goes like this in a perfect world. A person does something wrong. And said wrongdoer is brought before justice. Justice confirms this person has done wrong. And then justice decides and implements an appropriate punishment for the wrongdoer. The wrongdoer accepts his punishment and learns his lesson. And the person being wronged now has a sense of peace and joy, knowing that justice was done. The wrongdoer has answered for their actions, and the cycle is complete. And I think this is something that we're all kind of raised to follow. When justice is done, we feel good and at peace. And our media and our culture kind of perpetuate this idea. In religion, in Christianity, in the Old Testament, there's a lot of stories about how the evil is judged and punished. And the top television shows on TV are shows of crime and punishment. Law dramas, there are detective shows where millions of people tune in every week to see that justice, harsh justice, is meted out to the guilty. And sometimes it's not really fairly done, but we really want to see justice done, so we tune in to see it done at whatever expense it takes. But this cycle, as a pathway to peace, is flawed somewhat. Because there are a lot of external conditions that affect our ability to feel peace about the situation that is happening. If the wrongdoer isn't caught, then we don't feel peace. If the wrongdoer is caught and his punishment isn't appropriate to our standards, whatever they may be, still no peace. If they are caught and punished, and the wrongdoer isn't contrite or doesn't say the right things to make us feel as though he's learned a lesson, still no peace from that. So our internal peace is dependent on several different pieces lining up perfectly. And so there's a bit of a flaw in this crime and punishment model when it comes to how we feel inside. And where is forgiveness in this whole model? In all the cop shows and lawyer shows and in the lessons that we learn in the outside world about how we live our lives, forgiveness is not a crucial component. Forgiveness is also often thought of as this unattainable dream, this kind of shadow that's only reserved for saints and really special people that are really connected. And those are the only people that can feel forgiveness over something heinous that has happened, over some wrongdoing. We kind of think of punishment as a luxury item. It's locked away in a vault, in a guarded compound, protected by a net of laser beams and armed guards and pit bulls patrolling the area. So only the most skilled and the lucky and the fortunate are able to have access to this most precious of jewels. It's not considered to be our standard. And when forgiveness is expressed by a person, it's kind of met with a skepticism. Depending on the severity of the wrongdoing, if a person says, hey, you know what, I forgive you for what you've done, we most of us kind of look at them and scoff and say, there's no way I could do that. Or, in some cases, we believe that forgiveness is impossible to achieve. Even using the word achievement suggests that there's some obstacle to be overcome before we can reach forgiveness. So there are a lot of, I could speak for hours about our physical criminal justice system and its failings and some successes. But what I want to do is apply this system, this model, and this way of thinking. I want to apply it to our inner lives and our spiritual lives to show how this crime and punishment thinking flows into our everyday interactions with people and our everyday interactions with life. So, for that, I've got a scenario for you. And it's a driving scenario. And anybody that's ever seen me say before, they know that I like driving scenarios because when you get behind the wheel of a car, it is a unique place for you to be. It's kind of our private fiefdom where we can do whatever we please. We can adopt whatever attitude we want. We control the environment. Music or talk. Loud or soft. Smoking or not. It's a little bit warm, so I'll turn on the air conditioner. It's a little hot. Or it's a little cold, I'll turn on the heater. I mean, have any of you ever been sitting in your car with a guest and have them reach over and change the radio station? How dare you? This is my kingdom. If you have a wish, you let me know, and I'll decide whether or not to grant it. So, we're also quite comfortable asserting ourselves when we're behind the wheel of our cars. If someone offends you on the road, you give them a blast to your horn. You can graciously allow entry into your lane, or you can deny them based on your whim. It's the one place where, in the scope of a 10-minute ride, a single person can be a victim, an offender, a gentle and forgiving master, or an evil tyrant. All roles justified. There's no requirement of niceties in your car. So you kind of have an unfiltered view of the world. Your reactions are very unfiltered. So anyway, here's what happened. I'm riding to work on my motorcycle, and I look in my rearview mirror and I notice that there's a tailgater behind me. And tailgating is one thing when you're in a car. It's annoying enough, but when you're on a motorcycle, an old motorcycle, someone riding up on your rear wheel is somewhat alarming. So I kept my cool, and I remember what I always tell my wife. That's, you can't drive the person behind you, honey, I always tell her. Don't worry about what's back there, don't worry about what's up here. So I maintained my speed, and I just kept going. And as soon as there was a break in the traffic, the truck zoomed around me at a close pace, at a close distance, and then cut in front of me. I saw the car, and I could see the occupants of the truck. There's 3 white guys, in case that makes any difference to you. It makes a difference later on. But, and in the truck, in the bed of the truck, there were carpet materials there, so it appeared as though they were headed off to work. As they roared by, the guy in the back, it was a club cap, so the guy in the back of the truck, he looks behind me, and he looks at me. And so, what do you think I did at that point? Keeping in mind that I am studying to be a minister, I'm a peaceful person, I have love in my heart for everyone. What do you think I did? Oh, I did wrong.
Of course.
I almost couldn't help myself. You know, he just came and buzzed around me, and how dare he! And so my anger came rushing out, almost automatically, almost without my control. I did it. So, as far as crime and punishment is concerned, what happened inside of my mind? Well, the wrongdoer is the guy that's driving the truck. And so he was arrested and brought immediately into my courtroom, the courtroom of my mind, where he stood in front of a judge. A hanging judge, but a judge all the same. A judge that already had his mind made up as to his guilt. I mean, why would he have been arrested if he wasn't guilty, right? So, quickly, the verdict is handed down, guilty. The punishment? My finger. Retribution. And so it all happened, very quickly, and I judged him, got him back, but there was still no peace in my mind. I tussled the event around, trying to come to terms with it, and then I noticed my brain doing a funny thing. I noticed what they were driving. I noticed that they were probably headed off to work to some blue-collar job that they certainly hated, and I'm headed off to a white-collar job that I enjoyed. And these guys were probably ignorant, and they're probably even racist. There were many reasons that these people weren't like me, and there were many reasons that I came up with not to allow them to hurt me inside the way they did. And so, slowly but surely, their effect on me was minimized. Tiny, 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 tiny. And then off to jail they went. And instead of forgiveness, I kind of replaced that with pity. I felt bad for them because they're not as advanced as I am. They're not as happy as I am. So I can excuse what they did. But there's still no forgiveness there. So I wonder, has anybody here been through a kind of tragic situation like that, where you've been disrespected? Yeah? We all have. But let me change one little thing about this story. The tailgater now, if you put yourself in my position, the tailgater now isn't some anonymous racist bearing down on us. The tailgater is now your best friend. Whoever that is. What does that do to our criminal justice system in our mind? Well, that kind of changes things now. We reluctantly haul them into court. The judge, who was a hanging judge, is now a very sympathetic judge, very kind and understanding. We know this person. We know that they're not a racist. We know that they're not stupid or ignorant or hateful. This is someone that we love. And so now, instead of being brought before a hanging judge with no defense, they now have a powerful attorney working for them. Clarence Darrow has just entered the room. Matlock has just entered the room. Or Denny Crane, or contemporary reference. They just come into the room with a briefcase full of defenses and excuses. And the case is argued vigorously. And you decide, let them off with an acquittal. Shake your fist. You'll talk to them later and find out what their motivation was. And you let them go. No punishment, no prison time, no finger. Nothing. You just release them. So, what was the difference between these two situations? Love. Connection. When you love someone, when you allow yourself to love someone, your mind, your heart searches for ways to forgive them. It's automatic. You know their story. You know them. You know what their motivations are. You have a history. And so it's easier for you to search out a reason to forgive. But at the end of the day, it's all a story. You know? The only thing that you really know, the only thing that you can really be sure of, is that I'm riding my motorcycle, and he's riding in his truck, and you're both riding on the road. There isn't anything else that you know about the situation. Yet, the way our minds work, we need to weave a story out of it. I've been disrespected. This person has hurt me. I can't let him get away with that. But when it was somebody that we loved, the story that we wrote about the situation changed fundamentally. It went from a story of hatred and retribution to a story of love and acceptance and forgiveness. Just by changing one little thing, and that's your consciousness about the person that has wronged you. So what does this have to do with religious science? Well, since it's a story, that you've made up in your mind and you've come to these conclusions. In religious science, we believe that you have control over your story. You have control over the way you choose to see the world. So, here's kind of a brief rundown of what we believe in religious science. In the beginning, there's one. One God, one Spirit, one presence, one mind. And that's it. In the very beginning. Before there were planets and stars and anything in the material world, there was just this one presence. And we believe that everything in creation came from this one. Now, we don't know the origin of God, where he came from, what his motivations are. We just kind of take our conclusions from what we see around us. And we know for anything to be here, it must have come from somewhere. And so we choose to call that somewhere God. We believe that the intrinsic qualities of God are love, light, life, peace, beauty, joy, and truth. And because this one God, this one being, is the creator of everything, then he created you as well. And everything that has been created has God in it. So if God is in me, then of course it stands to reason that within me, my intrinsic qualities are love, light, life, peace, beauty, joy, and truth. This is our default setting. We come rolling out of the factory with these dials turned wide open. It's only after we learn that there are limits, that we perceive limits. It's only after we're taught that you can't love everyone, that you have to work for love. You can't just experience it. You can't just live within it every day. We learn this. But the truth of the matter is, and this is what we believe in religious science, is that these qualities are in us. And we can experience them to the amount that we can embody them. And so, we also believe that the creative power of God, because God is the creator of everything. The creative power of God is all around us and available to us, and responds to our thoughts, and responds to our will. So, if we believe that we're afraid, then we experience fear. If we believe that we're separate, then we experience separation. If we believe that we are love, and that love is all around us, then we experience love. If we believe joy is our mere existence, just being alive is a joyful thing. If we believe that, then that will be our experience. So it's through these core beliefs, and this is just kind of the Reader's Digest version, but it's through these core beliefs that we choose to view the rest of the world. And so, what would life be like if you knew that your connection to God can never be severed? What kind of choices would you make if you knew that your heart and soul are safe and can never be harmed? What would you do with your life if you knew that you didn't have to work for love and that love is all around you and completely accessible? What would it feel like to look at everyone in your life that you cannot forgive and release them and to just let it go? Forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you enter into relationships with people that are going to hurt you or that are dangerous or that have hurt you in the past. It doesn't mean that you have to do anything but to release them from the prison in your mind. And releasing them from that prison, you can release yourself from the burden of having to maintain the prison. Just like our prisons take tax dollars and a huge infrastructure to maintain, in order to continue to hate someone, in order to not forgive, since it's kind of against our nature in the first place, we have to work. We have to constantly remind ourselves, this person, I hate them. I don't forgive them. And it's a huge energy drain. So, I leave you with the question. What would it feel like to just retire as warden of your prison? To close it down, to tear down the walls, to set everyone and everything free that you have a grip on, and to open yourself to the infinite love that is there before you.